In the Baha'i teachings, music has a very significant role in community life. Music and the arts are held in very high esteem, not just as crafts, but really as an element of devotion and as an element of worship. This new album, Year of the Nightingale, has been made especially in honor of a special time of celebration that's coming up in the Baha'i community. So this year, 2017, the worldwide Baha'i community will be celebrating the 200th anniversary, the bicentennial of the birth of Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith. The official celebration will be in October on the occasion of the birthday of Baha'u'llah. And so I've been working on this album as a kind of artistic contribution to these celebrations, which really in some ways are marked by the entire year. The album consists of 10 new songs, and all of the words of these songs come from the Baha'i sacred writings, specifically from the writings of Baha'u'llah. And I wanted to use all writings from Baha'u'llah as really, because this album is in honor of his birth. Most of the songs on this album come from two books of Baha'u'llah. Firstly, one called Prayers and Meditations, which is a collection of various prayers written by Baha'u'llah, and also from another book called The Hidden Words, which is a collection of short, they're referred to as these kind of gem-like utterances, which Baha'u'llah wrote when he was living in exile in Baghdad. And these little short utterances are, they're written in a very poetic, kind of mystical language. They're described as really being like the essence of all of the spiritual teachings of the past, which have been brought by all of the prophets of the past.
I was always interested in singing whenever I could, from a very young age. After I had completed my studies at university, I started to compose more music and write my own work. And then I started to collaborate with different musicians, and this is where I met Luke, and we began to collaborate. So I had never really been a part of a project, a recorded project I should say, that was to record the words of Baha'u'llah. So, of course, in every, anytime I'm singing, I always try and channel something that is what I feel greater than me, something that takes me out of the picture. But doing it with the words of Baha'u'llah made it so much more specific and so much more clear that this was what I was to channel. So I would go into those spaces with a very clear feeling about that and trying to communicate those words specifically and to try and honor them as best I could. It's different when you're working with words that are written either by myself or others. But as a Baha'i, we recognize Baha'u'llah to be a messenger of God, so these words are so potent. One of the hidden words that I really enjoyed, or I always enjoy singing, is, "O Son of Being, thy paradise is my love, and thy heavenly home reunion with me." And I feel like those words kind of cut through so much. The remembrance of that other place, that other heavenly home being something that is eternal, something that's placeless, something that, is unchanging, is always a great reminder. The opportunity to sing those words, this almost elevated poetry, in the hidden words in particular, has really been an honor.
It's really hard to say what my role on this was. That's why I'm struggling, because this project is so different from any other project I've ever done. Normally you can say, well, I produced this record, or I mixed this record, or I played on this record, but for this record, it was really all of those things and more. And Luke and I worked very closely together to produce the record. One thing that we did that I had never done to quite a degree is we consulted about everything that we did. From every little detail, even to sometimes to a breath before a song, deciding whether that breath was adding to it or not. You know, every little syllable, every sound, we consulted about them and talked about whether or not that sound or that aspect of the production or that instrument was adding to the words. And so our focus on the words of the song, which are the words of Baha'u'llah, and trying to create a piece of artwork where everything that you hear and everything that you see, even in the art, to the physical piece of artwork, everything we wanted to serve the writings. And that was always in the back of my mind, but in this project we made it very, very explicit, and we really worked hard to help each other understand and be detached from our creative process enough that we could, throw something out if it wasn't serving the words.
A couple of years ago, the Universal House of Justice, the governing body of the Baha'i faith, brought the attention of the Baha'i community to the fact that this time of celebration was coming up. And they announced that in 2017, the Baha'i community would celebrate the 200th anniversary of the birth of Baha'u'llah. And the Universal House of Justice was encouraging the Baha'i community to begin thinking of ways to mark this occasion and to celebrate, and particularly how people could use the arts to contribute to these celebrations. And for several years I had been working on a project in collaboration with a very dear friend of mine, Kelly Snook, who is a producer and sound engineer. We had been working on a project of recording devotional songs based on the Baha'i writings. And with this announcement of the Universal House of Justice, this announcement about this celebration, we decided together that we would work to finish this project and release it in honor of this celebration. The title actually really is a reference to how sometimes in the Baha'i writings, Baha'u'llah is referred to as, symbolically referred to as the nightingale, which is a bird which is known for its particularly beautiful song. On Year of the Nightingale, I sing and I play guitar and piano and trumpet. We really wanted to produce the album at as high a standard as possible. For years we didn't have the resources or the time to really bring the album where we wanted it to go. At the same time, we also wanted to bring the project into alignment with the community building work that the Baha'i community is engaged in around the world. Over the last several decades, the Baha'i community has been developing a series of grassroots community activities, the purpose of which is really to enable people of any background at all, in any neighbourhood, in any part of the world, to build supportive, vibrant communities through activities. And these activities include neighbourhood classes for children to learn about virtues, or devotional gatherings where people of different faiths can meet and pray together. The other activities include junior youth groups, which are all about raising up the spiritual empowerment of young teenagers. And finally, a series of study groups for people to kind of learn new skills that can be applied in the process of building communities. And so Kelly and I really wanted to align our project with these community building activities. And so we thought, well, if this project is to support this process of building communities, we thought then it needs to be built by a community. And so we decided that we would use a model of fundraising known as crowdfunding. And crowdfunding is really all about community. Crowdfunding is about setting up a fundraising campaign to enable people to support a project that they believe in whatever way they want to. We put together a Kickstarter campaign. Kickstarter is one of the crowdfunding platforms on the internet.
Is it done? No?
Your project has launched!
Oh!
Congratulations, your project is live on Kickstarter. Okay, the countdown begins now. You know what to do. Tell people about it. Good luck. Through this Kickstarter campaign, people from all over the world began to contribute to make our project happen, and to contribute what we needed in order to finish the album and deliver it in time for 2017. It's been 23 hours since we launched, and 249 backers have brought us to $24,862, which is just $138 short of our entire goal of $25,000. And I'm kind of reeling with emotion from the amount of support that has come in. And it was a really extraordinary experience because contributions came in from like every corner of the world. People wanted to support this project and make it happen.
I'd never worked on a project that had so many people participating, and the Kickstarter that we did was really an injection of excitement and energy that we needed at the end of the process of making the album. And it was so lovely to have that many people going online and and pledging their support to the project. It just made us feel like what we were doing was worthy and would reach an audience.
By the end of the campaign, there was so much support that we actually had enough to record 2 albums instead of just 1. And so we finished the first album, and over the next couple of years we will be working on the second album. The second album will also be in honor of another celebration which is happening in 2019, when the Baha'i community will celebrate another important anniversary, which is the 200th anniversary of the birth of the Bab, another important figure in Baha'i history.
Seek no other help, O Son of Man. Be thou content with, and seek no other help. Seek no other help.
Since we released the songs one at a time on YouTube, we were able to really try and reflect on the songs and try and communicate some of the things about the production and the songwriting that represented spiritual thoughts or spiritual or represented the spiritual ideas in the writings. And this is another thing that I've never quite gotten to have that amount of closure. For every song we were able to just pay really close attention to it and try and communicate with words what we were trying to communicate in the music. And that was really exciting as well, like explicitly pointing to certain elements in the songwriting or in the production that represented spiritual ideas.
Right, which is part of why I figured I could be like maybe nice and simple with it.
I've been very fortunate to be working with some really, really fantastic, wonderful musicians on this album. I met another Baha'i friend called Diane Badia, who is a singer who was based in New York at the time. And Diane and I began singing together, and a lot of the songs that I was composing at that time with the Baha'i writings were really kind of emerging as duets with Diane's voice in mind. I began working with Kelly, and little by little we started to arrange sessions together with all these different musicians coming to Kelly's studio in Washington, D.C. and starting to record the music together. Another person who has really contributed in a very special way to this project is Shireen Sahba, the artist. For several projects, Shireen has very kindly contributed her paintings as the cover art for my CDs. For this new album, for Year of the Nightingale, because of the support of the backers, the supporters on Kickstarter, we were able to actually officially commission Shireen to create a brand new painting, especially for the cover of Year of the Nightingale. You know, not only in music, but also in the artwork. This album, this project has been especially privileged to receive so many contributions from so many people offering their talents to enrich the project.
This project has been one that's been a long time coming in a lot of ways, and there's so many contributions from so many musicians really all around the world that really I think has elevated this project to a level that both is really strengthening as an individual when you look back on it and you see how everybody's contributing some of their best work, I guess, in a lot of ways.
In many respects, I feel like this is the most important thing I've ever done. And that's why it's hard to talk about, because Luke and I had many conversations, especially towards the end when we were mixing after the Kickstarter. And when it was taking so much time and it was taking so much energy from us, we both, I won't put words in his mouth, but I know that I felt, and we spoke about it often, we felt like everything in our lives had prepared us for this project. And we felt like when we were working on the project, we were fulfilling our purpose. I beat myself up a lot in early years during my PhD and after my PhD, which I got in aerospace engineering, thinking that I was running away from my purpose and that I wasn't really meeting my destiny head on, and I was trying to find the easy way out by working at NASA and doing engineering, because I always felt what I really should be doing was music. And by the time I got into music production, I was quite a bit older, and I always thought that I'd wasted that time. But when we were working on this record, and what it took from me was so much of what I learned at NASA and what I learned in my engineering work, and in fact so much physics. It actually took physics. I had to do science to a couple of tracks. I really had to do a lot of thinking and problem solving and troubleshooting that I wouldn't have been able to do had I just gone into music. And it's very confirming when you feel like you feel like you've been prepared for something, and that it's something so beautiful.
Seek no other help.
I think when I first became a Baha'i, I think that it brought up quite a lot of philosophical challenges for me with regard to my music, because it really made me ask myself, why am I making music? What's the purpose of this? And it kind of brought up these sort of deeper, challenging questions in my life, because I'd been very active as a musician for years, but this new dimension was opening up certain questions that I hadn't really addressed in my life before. And I think that was a bit of a struggle at first to answer those questions, but I think over time I found that reading the Baha'i writings, kind of personally reflecting on Baha'u'llah's words, I think this actually gave me a great sense of focus about why I want to make music and why I want to go down this path of creating art. I hope that this album gives people a new, fresh experience of the writings of Baha'u'llah. I hope that this album can perhaps even introduce the writings of Baha'u'llah to people who haven't heard them before. In the Baha'i teachings, the central theme of life is the theme of service, trying to live a life that is of service to humanity in some way, to really try to do something useful with your life that contributes to the improvement of society. So this idea of doing something that is of service to humanity, of service to society, really began to inform my motives for making music. If I can make a piece of music that is uplifting for somebody, if I can make a piece of music that is comforting to somebody or is useful or helpful to somebody in some way, then I think it's a worthwhile effort. And I think that Baha'u'llah's words have really refined and focused my approach to making music. The Word of God is described as water, and when you put that water into a glass, it makes it very easy to offer to people. And so I hope that this album and the music that I've been working on with my collaborators, I hope that this album really acts as that glass for offering these words to people, because all of the music on the album really revolves around the words, and the purpose of the music is to really lift up the words as the kind of centerpiece of the album.
My home and my dwelling place, the seed thou hast sanctified from the limitations imposed upon